So sometimes the things that are super simple are take a long time and seem to be difficult to do until we got it, and then it continues to get easier. So imagine imagine you had a conversation with someone and it just keeps going around and around in your head, or you had some kind of an interaction, doesn't matter, conversation, some kind of an interaction. Doesn't matter actually what it is. It could also be not with a person, it could also be with just a situation, or you have an interaction with authorities, or not directly a person, businesses or whatever. But that interaction triggered a compressed emotion inside of you, triggered a frustration, an anger. There's some kind of a charge there. It doesn't feel good. And that's why it keeps going around and around in your mind, because there's a charge, there's a compression. So it continuously wants to decompress. It wants to decompress. That's why, by the way, it showed up in your life. Because it showed up not to create that decompression, but to trigger it. Because the compression, because it's not decompressed yet. That's the part you have to do. We have to do. So it didn't show up to compress us. It showed up as an opportunity to decompress what has been suppressed and compressed. So what has been compressed in the unconscious, that charge that we're holding in our body, which is density. That's what density is. It's a charge, and it's all based on the story of ourselves and the egoic mind connected to when we had an experience where that charge was first created, and then we make that, and then there's a story attached to it where we make that assumption, where we make that where we have an understanding or a belief gets formed about the world, about others, and about ourselves. So even if it's about the world and others, it's always about ourselves too, because the filter, the pain on the like the glass window pane that we see through, that we understand, it goes both ways. We see through the filter of the ego, and that's how we see ourselves. We see through the filter of the egoic mind, and that's how we see the outside world and others. So you have the story going around in your head that is upsetting you, and the whole time what the mind is doing is it's re-triggering this compressed energy, charged energy. The charge wants to release. At the same time, what is happening if we don't understand what is happening and consciously, I'll get to that in a moment, step in to change it, to do, to decompress that charge, to liberate that charge, yes. So if we don't step in and do our part, it's going to not just repeat, it's going to recharge. And the way it does that is that the egoic mind triggers it, or keeps reminding you of the trigger that just happened, by justifying your perspective, and it is your perspective of the situation that is a match to that charge, because it has the components of the perspective where that charge was imprinted, where you were compressed, where your energy was compressed for the first time, and it made the imprint on your consciousness. It's not on your consciousness, well, you could say, because it is the consciousness seeing itself through the egoic mind. It is where the consciousness is identified with the story in the egoic mind, and that is a story that is based in you are of course you're separate, and so it's a story that we take for granted, but at its premise it is false. It is based in the false premise, and that is why compression is possible. Because the false premise is, it's like it's in the reverse. Exactly, it's in the reverse. So as the truth is that we are one with life, that we are connected to all, and of course the only way for us to experience that is to be first through ourselves, is only through ourselves ever. And to experience that, the connection and the oneness with everything on the outside, we have to be one with ourselves first. So everything within ourselves that is in reverse, which is splitting off from the soul stream, from the original, the harmonious current, that is the energy current flowing, the energy has to go off of the you know, like the water hose, how it flows. It'll turn around in reverse, where that energy is held in an imprint that is in reverse to the truth, that is in the false, based in the false premise, and that is the egoic mind, the negative egoic, not the conscious. You wouldn't really call that the egoic mind anymore once it's conscious. That would be, in a sense, positive, because it's liberated. You know, it's now your energy. You see from a place of undistortion. You see the world and yourself. Now, there are still limitations that you put onto, that you take on. And you could call that distortion of the absolute as well, but it's not distortion. It's in harmony with that. It has a limitation, but it's in harmony with that. And so it's not based anymore in this, it's not in reverse, and it's not based in fear, because the only thing that can create fear is this belief in separation, and the belief in that was created through a negative imprint, that was created when the flow wasn't able to flow because there was a closing of the heart space, because it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good what came to us, because it was not coming from truth. You know, it's like not anymore a harmonious sound like we like to listen to, like the song of a bird, or the sounds of your grandmother cooking a meal in the kitchen and she's in a good mood. You know, just those sounds that we hear as a child. You know, even sounds like when that we make when someone cooks or so, you know, or puts on their clothes, those kind of sounds, they're also harmonious. And it starts to get noise when it is a distortion sound. So even in the voice, you know, you like to listen to someone who in themselves, let's move over here into the sun. Ha! Yeah. We got to move into the sun. Oh, definitely. Okay, hold on one moment. Yeah, okay. Alrighty. Okay, so yeah, you like to listen to someone who's in themselves in a good mood, feeling good, and who, when they speak, they're not projecting any negativity onto you, they're not judging you, and that's a field you feel good in, you know. And it's also a field that draws out the best in you. Okay. So the mind is going to, after the trigger has happened, the mind is going to mull it over, and justify why you feel the way you feel, and yet that you have every right to feel the way you feel. And but what the mind, the egoic mind, is going to do is going to show you why, when you feel bad, why you're the right one and you're the good one, and the other one who made you feel bad is the bad one. He's the bad one, or she's the bad one. So let's take that in for a moment. Yeah. And although it is good to allow yourself to have the thoughts you have, and especially have the feelings you have, because as soon as you're allowing the thoughts, you are awake to them. You are awake to them, and there's a part of you that knows, okay, this is a program, and if you, yeah, this is an old program, and I feel terrible. And what we of course want to do is we want to get out of that. We want to liberate ourselves from that program, because we want to liberate ourselves from always falling back into that curb that was carved out, that was indented by the first experience, the first time we experienced that, you know, that created the filter, that created the belief, the cluster of beliefs. And we want to liberate ourselves so that we don't, also from that charge, we want to feel good again. So really that's what it's about, is to release the charge that was imprinted the first time. And that's why those triggers, when they happen, first of all, they happen because you have this inside of you in your subconscious, and it's and you're attracting it from the outside, exactly the situation that is a match to this charge that's going to make you feel that way. And it's going to come to you, it's going to be triggered when you have gained, again, some more space around that, so you can receive that charge. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So you can liberate, and to that degree that you are able to, another portion of that charge. And here's how we can liberate, like, everything that's been triggered, all of it. You know, maybe there's more to it, maybe there is more detail and it goes deeper, but like the whole portion that has been triggered, and how we can instantly is challenging when the charge happens and you're not alone, when it's actually another person triggering it. We can also do that. But that, you know, that doesn't happen right from the get-go. We work our way up to that. We work our way up to that capacity. So when you're alone, this is going over in your mind. your mind is justifying why you're the good person and they're the bad person. You have all the dots. So you're judging them. Yes, but you have every, it's like, yeah, but look, or at least you're saying, oh, they're seeing it wrong. Yeah, they're not seeing it how you're seeing it. It's about the judgment, though. It's about the charge. And the charge is there because you are projecting that you're feeling bad onto them, that they made you feel that way. And because you're doing that, because you're projecting the bad feelings onto them, making them the culprit for the way you feel, because they triggered them, that means that your heart is closing towards them. Now, it may not be someone you love in the first place. However, you still don't have it right. You're still projecting. What do I mean by that? You still don't have it right. It means you're still, there's a fault in the interpretation. Yeah, there's a fault in the interpretation, and if this charge that wants to discharge, that's why it comes up, is not discharged because you're projecting it. So now we're at the meat of this, what I want to say. If you project it and you mull it over in your mind, keep it in that way, oh yeah, they were terrible again, made me feel really bad. Oh, and what can I do next time to not have that happen again? And what can I do as a response? And how can I protect myself, or whatever. Maybe it's also just mulling it over and being angry at them, and or not even angry. Whatever energy it is, it's the projection onto the trigger point. Could also be a situation. It doesn't have to be another person. It could be a situation. It's the projection onto the trigger, which doesn't allow the energy, the compressed energy, to be liberated and released, which is what wants to happen and why this showed up. Okay. Why? Because what you don't have right is, as you're projecting, you're not owning your energy. So again, that energy that's in reverse within you, that wants to come back to you, that wants to come back into the harmonious flow. It's a stress in your body. It can, over time, it can create distortion. It can even create illness, because on the energetic level is where it happens first, and then over time, if there's a repetition, it can manifest in the physical. So it's an energy that is, so to speak, split off of you. It's an energy that doesn't feel good, so you're pushing it down. Now here comes the help from the outside. That's how it's designed, to trigger that, for you to receive it back and be liberated from that bad feeling. But for some reason, and that reason is because in your mind you haven't reconciled yet, you haven't put all the pieces together yet, how it is that you haven't been unfairly, badly, unjustly treated. How it is that, isn't it true? That situation is wrong, it's unfair, and so forth, and I'm right. And whether that is so or not doesn't matter. That's the thing. That's not what it's about. So if we continue in that in the story of on that level, and we want it to be different, it's never going to be different, because it can only be a representation of our inside. That's how it works. So we need to get our energy back, to liberate that bad feeling. We need to own the energy. And we don't have to own, we don't have to say, oh, it's all my fault, it's all my fault. That's just another ego false interpretation. That's not saying, oh yeah, okay, I am the bad one, they're the good. That's just swapping the deck chairs. You know, it doesn't make any difference. It's only ever egos coming from, you know, the identified minds that can have this kind of, that can create this kind of charge, that can trigger charge, and that can not feel the charge, but that will project, because the egos don't feel. See, that's the thing. The egoic mind is, if it filters through the egoic mind, if that's where your attention is in that story, even though, let's say, you're absolutely right, it doesn't matter. You can be right, but you will never be free. Because it's not about being right. It's about being free. You want to be free of this this bad feeling, You want to be free. So, what that takes, it doesn't take going to that person and saying, or I don't know. One thing that's very important is, it's not being a doormat. It's not like, oh, you know, or letting the situation just run over you like a bulldozer, and you're just taking it all in, and you're a doormat. No, that's not what it's about. It's going to the core. It's going to the root cause of what is going on here, of why you're feeling bad. It is bringing you the real solution to this uncomfortable, feeling bad situation. And not just this time around. It will liberate a great portion of it. Everything that has been triggered. So that next time around, when the same trigger comes again, you'll do the same thing, but you'll be more prone to it. Each time it goes easier, because you become stronger, you become quicker in your conscious awareness of what's happening. And so, and at the same time, the charge is weaker. So the charge is less overwhelming, or becomes, at some point, not overwhelming at all. Very, you know, until it's completely. So here's what we do when we're alone. We have to do this with ourselves. I mean, maybe, you know, we can do it with a practitioner, but we can't do this. Yeah, okay, when we get really good at it, maybe, wait, let's see. Let's first do this, and then we'll go to the, if we can do it instantly, because it's, I don't think I've been able to do it instantly yet. Which, yeah, so the owning part. So after the situation has happened and it's up, all these negative emotions are up, the story is mulling over in the mind, and, you know, it's triggering negative emotion. That's your energy right there. That's your energy. So it only feels bad when you're projecting it. Yeah, you notice that. You can notice that. Only feels bad when it's being filtered through the egoic mind. So you're still in the egoic mind in that interpretation of it. Drop to the energy level and you'll feel how it doesn't feel good. And remember, I'm giving my energy away. Because, I'm playing the victim. I see myself as being done wrong. So I'm in the victim mode. And even though I might have been done wrong, yes, that can be. But this is not about the story. This is about liberating yourself from the charge. Because here's what's happened. Here's what happens. When the charge is liberated, when you dissolve that, because that's, emotions are, what did I always say? Emotions are magnetic. That's why we attract everything that's emotionally stored in the unconscious. All the matches to those feelings. We attract situations that will trigger them. That will be like, give you the exact constellation which is going bling, and then it's like chemistry, it gets triggered. And thoughts are electric. So emotions are magnetic, thoughts are electric. In this, what we really want is to feel good. And when we release the charge, that situation won't show up again. Because there's nothing to trigger. So that's how we also solve the story. And this particular story right now that is happening is that opportunity, is so that we can dissolve the charge. And the way to do that is, I'm feeling bad because I'm still projecting. Own it. I'm not giving my energy away. I don't want to give my energy away anymore. I need to, wait a minute, that's mine. That's mine. Come here. Come here. Come back. And so when I realize this, oh my gosh, I'm still playing that zero-sum game, okay? It's a zero-sum game. You will never win on that level of the ego. Remember, it's just two egos. And you can never win because they're always in diversity. They're always in duality. On that level, because it's coming from charge on both sides. And if it's let's see, can I move over a little more? If it's another person triggering you, it's because they have the same charge in them. And it's just two mirrors faced to each other, and it's a trap. You can never get out. Have you ever, look at that. I mean, look at two mirrors facing each other. There's no way out. It's a trap. So the egoic mind is a trap anyhow. If we're not consciously working through it, which then it becomes like a costume, and then that's not, we wouldn't call it then anymore the egoic mind, even though we are still playing in the world of separation, and we are aware of, we're still also within our story of the body, but it's no longer the ultimate of what we are. It's like it doesn't have a frame anymore. It's open. It's like beyond that, you're so much more. You are everything you were before that, and everything you're going to be after this. You're your soul, and then there's the multidimensional soul. There's the soul collective, and the greater soul collective, and so forth, where it's all this consciousness streaming into all the fractals of itself. The one creation consciousness, the one light energy that is flowing through all the physicality, you know, all the fractals, soul collective. That's the tree of life, or the tree of light. It's one thing to know this, but you can still, you know, still be trapped in your ego. We are, you know, until we, and that's the thing. If there's no more charge, because I have seized the opportunity, and it feels so good. I mean, it instantly relieves everything. If I understand this, that this is what it's about, and of course it may just relieve for a second, and then it kicks right back in, and so it's repeat. It's like it hooks, and it's like, okay, it's got me again, and then I take my energy back. I feel it, and that taking the energy back is like, hey, wait a minute, this is mine. And I cannot, in my mind, at the same time, be projecting. That's bad out there. That's the wrongdoer. I'm being victimized. Could there be any other... or it's a bad thing that happened. It's a bad thing that happened out there, you know? Again, it's projecting, it's going out. So you are not owning, you are not receiving back the charged energy. And even sadness is charged. That's number one. The other thing is, which also helped me, is to realize, in my case, it's and I think very, very, very many people, that's just what I get, and that's what I hear, is that very, very, very many people have entity attachments. It's just like how many people have viruses and parasitical organisms, bad bugs and whatnot, streptococcus, Epstein-Barr virus, herpetic family virus, and all these different strains of viruses, yes? All these, so many hundreds of strains of viruses. And who's without a virus? And the virus is, it's like on the physical level, the equivalent of, because it's a parasitical organism, it's working against the life stream. It's like working into the death stream. It's working against the organism that it lives in. So it's a parasitical organism. It doesn't work in that unity consciousness for peak performance, for health, in harmony with all other participants of the system within the body. And then outside is, of course, within the greater body. You know, outside we can say we're in greater bodies, and it's like basically the earth, you know, is the greater body. Our bodies are a part of earth. And then it continues. So that's just on the energetic level, because as soon as we project, we are feeding into the reverse spin. So that means we are losing energy. And at the same time, that's not going to go, where's that going? You know, there's going to be, a whole slew of entities that are keeping themselves alive, keeping their forms, it's more dead than alive, but, you know, keeping their forms together by the matching energy that they feed, because otherwise they would dissolve. So they're just in survival mode and feeding off of that which we give off, that negative emotion that we feel. And that's also if and when we have entity attachments, the trigger points will not only happen more often, but it's also that the charge, it's the charge is stronger, and it's like it's held that loop. Yeah, exactly, the two mirrors pointed at each other, projecting toward each other. It's like that entanglement which keeps you in that loop of feeling bad. Yeah, that is being driven by the entity, because that's what the entity wants. So it's like you have a little catalyst there attached to you that will keep that loop going. It's almost like, yeah, like it's supporting that losing of energy, that death spiral, in a sense, because you lose energy, and so it will make you also age faster. It will support any kind of dis-ease, even on a physical level, if it's on, and definitely on an emotional level, it's going to support that. So that really helped me to realize that, because I started to become, I kind of knew this for a very, for a long time, but I just became very aware of recently how big of a factor that actually is, these entity attachments, and that we can be born with them, and then I actually started to feel them. I started to feel them like triggering me in my dreams, because I wasn't feeding, because I was already more and more and more getting this and owning my energy back, and watching, becoming aware, because this is what happens when consciousness wakes up. This is what happens when the soul and the more light comes in, is that I was becoming more aware, and am becoming more aware, when I'm going through the day and I'm just all of a sudden in some kind of a negative loop in my mind, mulling it over. Or if I'm in other people's business, for example, it's like, and of course that business, there's some kind of, it doesn't even have to do with me, but there's some kind of a conflict there, there's some kind of an adversity there. So that all is a vibration, that all has a charge, and it's negative. So if I can't find anything, this is what I've been also noticing. If I can't find anything in my life to mull over in my mind that has a negative charge, then the egoic mind will find some problem in somebody else's life, or some conflict or something that you will then mull over in your mind. Just so it keeps you in a lower frequency, because you are entertaining a story that is of conflict, and that is running your charge. It's running into that. It is entertaining the charge, and as you are entertaining the charge, you are recharging, and you are feeding these organisms, these parasitical energetic organisms, so the entity attachments. And of course, on a physical level, you're also feeding the viruses in your body. And your immune system weakens in the entertainment of stressful thoughts, stressful thinking, because it's all vibration. It's vibration down into this density, but it's vibration. That's why doesn't matter what kind of a illness it is, how far along it is. There is this potential always, depending on the ability and the potential of the consciousness. But there is the potential of the body of this miraculous, of this spontaneous healing. And I've experienced it myself overnight. And it's wow. I mean, it's really, yeah. So, if you also, this helped me to know this. Okay, I'm feeding my entity right now. You know, I'm in other people's business. Oh, why am I thinking of something that doesn't make me feel good? You know, because it's not solving a problem. If we want to solve a problem, okay, this is the next thing. So let's say that there's a problem that exists triggering our negative charge, and we're in that loop of feeding the entity and projecting onto the problem that that's a bad thing and that it's not right, or feeling disempowered, or just a bad thing is happening to me, or blame on another person, don't like this, pushing it away. All of that is projection. All of that is you not owning your energy, is you pushing your energy away and feeding the entity. How to break that cycle is when we feel the bad feelings, we can actually feel that happening, yeah? Then we're like, oh, wait a minute, that's mine. I don't want to give that away. Okay, so I open up inside and just receive my energy, because it's neutral. The energy is just energy. It feels bad if I push it away when I'm projecting. It feels instantly good, and of course I have to turn off the projector. So anyways, I can't be in my mind at the same time as I'm in my feeling, in my sensations. So I feel, and it's like, oh, that what I'm feeling is mine. That's mine. Nobody else is in there. It's just me. It's my energy. So I take it back. And knowing this, of course, knowing why this trigger is showing up, why the situation is showing up, and knowing that also you're feeding an entity as you're projecting, all of that is very helpful to support you in remembering this and implementing this and breaking out of the vicious cycle, breaking out of that loop of recharging and stepping into liberation. Yes. Feels very, very good. So now let's say you have an actual problem or you have an actual, okay, so it's like another person that triggered it, and you're in a relationship with that person. So how are you going to be with that person after they triggered you? The first thing to do is, because what you want to do, because that's what we want to do as human beings, because we want to come back into harmony. Yeah? We want to feel good. We want to solve the problem. We want to feel good. As long as you're unconscious to this, to this mechanism, and as long as you're still in that story of, I want to be right, I want to be acknowledged, I need to be acknowledged, I need to be seen that I'm right. And of course then, because it happened because maybe they thought they were right and you were wrong, they were good, they were bad, you did something bad to them, and you want to see that, no, I didn't do anything. You want them to see, no, I didn't do anything bad to them. I never intended to do anything bad to them. So you want to be seen in a certain way. You want to be acknowledged, or you want to be right. And thinking that that's going to solve the problem, that is what you need to feel good. That's the trap, that's the trap of the egoic mind. You're never going to get out of it. You can't. Zero sum game. Yeah, you can't. So to realize that is already a huge. Mm, it's liberating to realize the truth. It always is. And the thing is that if you come into feeling good and you don't need anyone for that, you don't need the situation to change, you don't need anyone else to change, all the power to feel good is in us. It's in ourselves. That's the only place it lies. Nobody else has that power. We're the only one who has that power. Is that true? Yes, it is. And I asked it because there are still parts of me that are not so sure, that there's still some parts that I could feel now that are in the unconscious that are running a different program. Yeah, okay. So, but then if I tune in and I ask, is it true? What I know from my mind and what maybe already 51, yeah, I think 51% definitely of me knows this. I would just say that. And I check in and I can feel the truth. We can always feel the truth because it's like it opens, not in the way of splitting. It opens, truth opens us to ourselves, which means it removes the barriers. It removes the splitting veils. The veils open. And so unity in the body is felt in truth. That's what truth is unity. That's the base. The base truth is unity, is oneness. So to solve the problem on the outside, because that's always the egoic mind's kind of like hook, yeah, is to say, to keep you in it, not that the egoic mind has a life of its own. It's you giving it's just a filter. It's just a program. And it's you buying into that program and giving that program a shape, a form, a life through your life essence. It's your soul, it's your consciousness that is asleep to itself and that is identified within this false self program that is in the reverse to the truth. So it's not based in unity. It's based in separation. Okay, I know I repeat myself very often times, but it's kind of like coming at the same thing from all kinds of different angles. And over time, anyways, I just coming out of me like this. And what happens is almost like the pixels are, the plot is, what is it? The plot is thickening. Exactly. And this is not to convince. There's no need to convince when you realize that, when you're realizing the truth, and when this is being communicated. It's not a convincing. I don't need anyone to watch this. I don't need anyone to, do anything. This is, yeah, okay. I think that's pretty clear. Maybe I should turn on the light. Okay, last part. I think this is the last part of it. And that is, so what do I do about, how's that going to, okay, because the egoic mind is going to make us believe that we have to address the problem outside. So that we have to prove our perspective, so to speak, that is right. That we have to receive justice from the outside. And there's truth to that too. That we stand in for ourselves and claim justice. Yes, absolutely. Again, this is not being a doormat. This is not about being disempowered at all. This is true empowerment right here. It's just that we got it backwards. We're working through the egoic mind to liberate the egoic mind. Not going to happen. We're working through the story to try to harmonize the story, and over the story to come back into peace and harmony and feel good again and feel empowered again. Not going to happen. Cannot happen. Because what has to happen before is the liberation of the charge. And because that's the root cause of it. It's the liberation of the charge. As we understand this and focus on the charge, on liberating the charge, so that means owning our energy, not projecting it. And that also means using the egoic mind, always coming back to it, triggering what's left of that charge as a tool, as the tool that will help us clean out, so to speak, that will help our liberation, because it will keep triggering it. It will keep bringing that up. And, mind you, entity attachment also is always poking, give me my stuff, So there's and it's the same thing. The entity attachment is a catalyst. It's a catalyst for our suffering. But once we understand what's going on, once we understand the anatomy of this, the mechanism of this, then it becomes actually a catalyst for our liberation. Because every time we're triggered, that's the opportunity to own those bad feelings. And owning, it's not owning, because I just get this, that owning is interpreted as through the ego as, oh, I'm the bad one, I'm the wrong one. No, owning means this is my energy. It's just on a sensational, on an energetic level. This is not the story. Let the story go first. We'll get back to it. It's not going anywhere. We're not being a doormat here, So as I have addressed it on the energetic level, because this is what has to come first, I have to come back into truth. That's why it happened. That's why it's showing up. It's showing up for me, really, so I can come back into my truth by owning my fragments, my fragmented energy, my energy that's in reverse. And that means feeling them, receiving them, and it really, to come out of that resistance of the feeling bad can be very difficult. But when we understand, as we are feeling bad, we're giving our energy away. We're in our minds giving our energy away. We need to do this first. We need to first bring it back to us. So that feels really good. We take care of that first. And it's gonna go oscillate back and forth. Oh, but I'm afraid. Oh, but that's terrible. Oh, but this situation needs to be addressed. Okay, same thing over. We drop into the energy of it and take care of that first. We drop into the energy of it. We don't have to immediately react. Of course, if the situation, asks for that, we do as good as we can, but we always, always, always come back to the energy side of it. Now, as the compressed charge, well, charge is always compression, as the charge is released, then we can truly address the situation, because then we are no longer, the situation will trigger the charge as long as there is charge. So it's going to be that opportunity, and that's all it is, as long as there is that charge. And once there is, or as there is less charge, once there is no more charge, you will see what you were so afraid of before. Everything you were so afraid of before. All the fear projected into the situation. All the negativity projected into the situation is going to transform. You'll be able to handle it. You'll be able to see a different different choices. You'll see that, it's not as dramatic as you thought it was. You'll see opportunities. And also, you won't have the same need. You won't have the need anymore to be acknowledged. Because that's not the job of the situation. That's not the job of the structure. That's not the job of the other person or the group or whatever. That's your job, when we can acknowledge ourselves, then we don't feel the need to be acknowledged anymore. Because we can then also acknowledge the role that the others are playing. And it's like you're holding them in that role. You are holding them in that role by, if you come through your egoic mind, through that story of needing to be acknowledged, then what they're going to bring to you is not acknowledgement. So again, it's that zero-sum game and holding each other in place. You change, they lose a job. So they have to change. They're going to change. Or they phase out. They phase out of your field. That's how it works. And the problem resolves. And it doesn't really matter, like, what we're going over in the mind, like, what are they thinking, and what did they do, and all the details on the surface of the stage, that the mind is going over, that it is justifying how it's not the way they say it is, and justifying, showing you how you're being done wrong, and why there is a reason to feel bad. Actually, it's in the end, it's just showing you why, as the story is, as you see it, there is a reason to feel bad. And there is a reason to protect yourself. There's a reason to push away. There's a reason to blame. And that's the projection loop. And as long as the mind is in that world trying to figure that out, and also, working out the argumentation, or the what you're going to say, and that's going to make them, that's going to be the, in front of a trial or so, and the lawyers, who has the better, I don't know the words, who has the better proof. Here, I have the proof, and all of this, and how am I going to explain this? How am I going to show them so they finally understand me? How am I going to show them so they finally get my point? That the way they're seeing me is wrong, It's all part of that, feeding the entity, keeping you in the loop, the zero-sum game. When we can see this, when we can just understand this, it breaks the cycle. We're already liberated. We'll fall in 1,000 more times, but we also 1,001 more times we'll find the exit. And then that goes faster. That goes faster every time. And there can be also that something so deep gets triggered that we seem to forget, and then, I've already been out of this for such a long time, and now I fell back in really deeply and was caught in this loop for a long time again. How is that possible, And that can be because that's part of the allowing it to be triggered. All of that is there. Because there's another part of it. Is that the egoic mind is going to take every single. Again, it's not that it has a will of its own. It's how it works. It's going to take every single angle where there is the potential of identification. So it will also take on that angle of, hold on. I'm doing the work. Yeah, exactly. But I'm doing the work. I'm feeling, and I'm not in the story, and nothing happens. And you're sitting there, and you're still feeling. There's like a tiny little thin layer of you that is feeling, but you can feel that most part of you is in resistance and still projecting and losing your energy. You're still feeling bad, and you're sitting there and nothing is happening. So in a sense, the egoic mind, surrender cannot happen. The loop, the cycle is not broken. You haven't found your way out yet because there's something still trapping your, holding on your identification. Something still in your mind that you are unconsciously in that story. And that's the part that where surrender can't happen, where owning can't happen, where this is mine. Instantly the projection is pulled back, all the energy comes back to you. And so as, we get better, but then if something deeper gets triggered and we're in that loop longer again, and we go like, why couldn't I get out of that sooner? I already know this. So all this that I'm talking about, I already know this for a very long time. But the knowing and the understanding of it it's like it shows you the way, but sometimes we forget the way anyhow. When there is, and this is what I'm saying now, this is not a fault of us that, we weren't good enough, why did we forget about it again? It's because this is a chunk that was so deeply asleep, and that triggered such a charge, because that's always a thing. In the charge, in the negative, we're like a deer in headlights to so We don't even notice. And the egoic mind is going to say, "Oh, I'm feeling it. I'm conscious. I'm conscious," and yet you like still feeling bad, and you're in that loop for a long time. Even though you know this, and you're practice, so to speak, practicing it, you're still coming back over and over. You thought you'd already done it, and you're still coming back to it over and over. It's because it was a big chunk, and it was a deeper layer, and because it has to be triggered for us to feel it. So we have to also be allowing. Now comes the trap. Yeah, I forgot it. I was like, what was that piece? Okay, I got the piece back. It is part of this liberation is to allow also the negative feelings to show up in the first place, and not by your mind, which is then the egoic mind. That's hijacking. That's another angle the egoic mind takes, is to say, I'm not feeling this. This is not bad. This is an opportunity. It's like taking on the story of, oh, this is an opportunity, and these bad feelings, they're not bad at all. And the other person, no, the other person is not to blame. So that's a layer on top of a layer that is truer, which is in actuality, it does feel bad, and I am blaming the other person. So it's a denial. It's like another layer on top of that, denying it's not your truth, but it is truer, that you are actually, yes, you are triggered. Yes, you are feeling bad. Yes, you are in ego. Yes, you are, asleep to yourself and not conscious. Yes, what else? You actually are pushing the other person away. You are projecting onto the situation and the other person. You are projecting. It's like, it's almost like that's the spiritual ego. That's the egoic mind, that identification that will say, oh, I'm already through that. I nothing is happening, and all I need to do is feel it. Yeah, it's okay. Taking on that story, and again, not being in the truth of feeling. That is why it is part of awakening and liberating and breaking the cycle. To go into, as I said in a previous video, in order to get out of victimhood, the first step is to acknowledge it. To acknowledge all the feelings and thoughts where you do feel like a victim. So it's like, okay, yeah, this is happening. I'm in ego. I'm feeling terrible. This old program is happening again. I am projecting, and most of all, if you are angry at a person and you don't want to admit it because you love them, because you already know it's your own thing, you already know it's your projection. But the egoic mind will say, yeah, I know it's my projection, so it's not their fault, but there is still that part of you that is blaming them. So in order to release that charge, that negative emotion, that where you are blaming them, you first have to unlock and acknowledge that. It's like, acknowledge that ugly part of you, acknowledge that unconscious part of you. It's only the egoic mind that will not want to acknowledge that you're not fully awake yet. Because it is identifying with this, it is in the not good enough, it's in that duality. Good enough, if something is good enough, then there's also something that's not good enough. So I don't know if that's duality or polarity. I'm going to have to make a separate video on that to be really, really clear about the difference, because, yeah, that can be confusing. So, but you get what I mean. You know, if I'm like, okay, that was good enough, that means in another way you can also be not good enough, and that's all egoic mind. So even good enough is part of the zero-sum game. To step out of that, to come out of that, is you are. You are. You just are. And there is no not good enough and good enough. It's full. And it's relaxed, and it's peaceful, and it's resting in itself, and it's, you know, seeing it all. There's no charge. And in that place, when you have acknowledged, yes, okay, I am angry, so you have to acknowledge your anger. You have to acknowledge you know, those negative emotions that you're projecting outside. You have to allow them. Because there's that ego part that will not want to allow them, because you're a good person, you're a spiritual person, you're awake enough, you're more awake than that. You're not going to go and you know, project negative or blame. You're not going to play the blame game, because that's not spirit. You know, that's not awakened. You can't do that. You know, you have to feel bad about doing that. And of course, we feel bad when we blame, because we're in the ego. We're projecting, and that can only, by the way, projection can only happen when the heart is closing. So the heart has to close in order to project, to like push the energy outside and not allow the energy to come in. And that always hurts. That just always hurts, because this is who we are. My neighbors. This is our essence, you know, the energy flowing through the heart from our soul. So it's denying ourselves. It's squeezing out the soul, squeezing out who we are. That's what the ego does. Not that it does that. It's the mechanism that happens when we are asleep to ourselves and see ourselves through the filter of the ego. Then that will squeeze the heart, compromise the heart's openness. So to acknowledge that what we feel bad about ourselves, to acknowledge our own unconsciousness, to acknowledge our own where we project and where we are not fair, and where we are also shutting ourselves off from ourselves, where we are blaming still. Yeah. Acknowledging all of that, owning that, saying, oh, right, yes. And then we can feel it. And that's when the surrender happens, and we open to, yes, I'm doing that. Yes, I'm doing that. It's mine. I am doing. It's like, don't. Yeah, I mean, no one can take your energy away. It's you actually who is splitting yourself off from yourself. It's you that is squeezing out the energy of you. The outside is going to, in form of an entity attachment or in form of certain structures built on egoic structures, are going to act as the egoic structures, are going to coerce, tempt. You know, they're going to support all of that. They're going to support your being asleep. They're going to support you in giving your energy away, you not being aware. They're going to support you staying asleep and support thereby, you know, stay in the low vibration, stay in suffering. And those are all the structures, be it the structures in the socioeconomic world, all the structures on the outside are a representation of also the egoic structures on the inside, that we build. It's like we're building our own prison. We're building our own prison. Even though we ourselves have not built the egoic structure, we took it on, but we took it on in full consciousness. We took it on with choice, to as a free being, to come and work through a prison, to be imprisoned, in order to wake up in prison and realize that we are always free, and that we in truth cannot be imprisoned, because the prison is in our minds. And as we liberate ourselves from our egoic identification, as we wake up to the egoic identification, to the illusion that it presents us, to the story, the zero-sum game that it presents us. It is the version of the story, really. It is the version of the story. And we may not be able to see it until we come back out of the fear, out of the charge, back into a relaxed, neutral state, and understanding the anatomy, the who we really are, and the mechanism of it, before we can see, why are the things happening to me that are happening to me? And yes, and as we liberate ourselves from our own imprisonment in our mind, to that degree we will experience the liberation represented in the physical, because that's the law of physics. That's, even though in quantum physics, this is now, unity field equation, or what is it called? Unity field, I don't know. But this, mathematically all proven in quantum physics that all is one, that separation doesn't exist. And all the implications of that. Also that it is a dream, that the dream at night and the waking dream, same principles, just different experience, different flavor. Yeah? Different density, different time-space experience, and so forth. But, yes, and also way, way, way denser, so not just all slower, but also many things are not possible that are possible in a dream. It's not as pliable, it's not as morphing, we can't fly, we can't float, it can't morph, we can't shift as fast, and all of this as in a dream. But it's all there as a potential, and it's just denser, but the same principles of a dream. So in a dream, it's clear, they already are saying this in the old psychology, that every single person in your dream is a version of you. And of course, it's not, in your dream, it's a version of this you and your soul and so forth. Because you're having that dream at night on the inside. This dream on the outside is a version of the greater and greater and greater and greater and greater you, because there is no separation, and because of the way that the soul anatomy, the tree of life, builds into the greater and greater collectives. As I said, the monad soul, the avatar soul, the rishi soul, Godhead, and so forth. And that there's no, I don't even know Godhead how much. The rishi has 1,728 souls is represented. That soul has 1,728 bodies. Clusters. All one soul in so many bodies. So in real life also, everything on the outside is a representation of your inside. And so how is the system, what does that tell us about the system, you know? What does that tell us about dreams and reality? It tells us that what what is happening, of course it is to experience yourself of something as someone, as a limited version of yourself, that you are not only that. And not only that, but you are not as and how you think you are, as long as you are seeing yourself. And then also life is not as you think it is, as long as you're seeing it through the egoic mind and through the, you know, the false premise of separation and all the negative and all the fear, that fear-based emotion and filters that and beliefs, clusters of beliefs that are based in that. So it is to fall asleep to who you really are, play that game, to go into compression, and then wake back up. Why? Because this receiving yourself back, receiving what you have, what doesn't feel good, your energy, receiving it back, because instantly when you receive it, when you own it, say, oh, wait a minute, I don't want to feed the entity, I don't want to give my energy away. This is mine. So I feel it, receive it back, it instantly it feels good, instantly doesn't feel bad anymore. Yeah, what happens is, in this compression and decompression, after the compression comes the decompression, and the decompression is always going to be it's like it creates expansion, exactly. And that's what it's all about. The growth of the soul, the growth of consciousness in a form, in ever denser form. Why? Because in the end, that's what love. That's love in form. That's how love grows. And that's in the end. You know, there's no end, but at some point, that's bliss, that's ecstasy, that's magic. That's how that can be experienced. See, I have so much love. When you speak the truth, as it just comes out, not just from the mind, but as it comes out, you feel, I feel how it opens the heart and is so beautiful. And this is what I'm feeling now. And as it's recording, it's imprinting. These vibrations are imprinting into the video. That's beautiful. And either your heart is going to open if you had, you know, if someone triggered you, someone triggered your negative emotion that you actually love, you're going to come back into the truth with them, into the love with them. Even if they're not there with you, it doesn't matter, because you feel it. and that vibration is coming to them. Just as also your judgment and your projection is also flowing through to them. And so it's going to make them close down and also project more, and locking them into that mode. But as you open, you liberate them from that role. And it will be much more difficult for them then to uphold that mode. So what happens is either you come back into love on the physical level, harmony, and then you communicate from a heart space. You interact from a heart space. Or that person is just, it's done. It phases out of your field.